And here we go. So let's try and get this up, this screen up. There we go. So we've got plenty. We've got who we got on. We've got Dan Smith. How are you doing, Dan? Anita's on. How are you doing, Patrick? I can see Patrick's on there. Hello, Andy. Andy Phillips. I noticed you're on there as well. Fantastic. So we've got quite a few people. Oh, we're jumping. There's loads of jumping on now. So we're probably going to start about for 5-10 past. But this is just to let lots of people come on and get settled down, because I know that people are rushing in from work or just finished their dinner or whatever you need to be doing. So we'll give it to about 10 past, and then we'll get cracking. So I know we've got a little alarm clock going there to let me know that we've got a webinar tonight. She must attend. So who else have we got there? We've got Ray Murphy's on, Paul McGee's on. How you doing, Paul? Ray, Liz Sweet's on, and Teresa Braddon's on as well. That's fantastic. We've got loads on. Well done. Nice to see you all on this event. This is fantastic. Fantastic support. It's brilliant. And I must admit, I'm a little bit nervous because there's literally, let's say, nearly 200. Bob's on there. How you doing, Bob? I haven't spoken to you for a while. I hope you're doing well, mate. We'll be speaking soon, no doubt. Carlene, how you doing, Carlene? We haven't spoke for some time either, have we? Wow, this is fantastic. So we've got a lot to get through today. We're probably going to go over the hour-and-a-half scheduled, and we will be sort of taking questions during the webinar at certain points, and I'll let you know. We've got Justin on the line. How you doing, Justin? It's fantastic. And we're all popping on now. What are we up to now? We've got getting on for 60-odd people now. That's fantastic. I'm just finishing my tea, so I do apologise if you can hear me drinking. I am recording this. I don't know how we can get the recording over to you, but we'll do something somehow, I'm sure, if you do want a copy of the recording. Neeraj is on. How you doing, Neeraj? We haven't spoke for ages, mate. I hope you're treating your lovely wife well. Michael Dickinson's on the line as well. Neville. Oh, Neville, nice to see you, Neville, mate. And hopefully you're having a wonderful time since we had a little intervention with you a couple of weeks ago. That's brilliant. Who else have we got coming on? We've got Sandra. Sandra, how you doing, Sandra? Is Byron with you? Hopefully he is. He was looking forward to this, I know he was. Hope he's not working too hard. Who else have we got? We've got Tony. How are you doing, Tony? See you for ages, mate. We're going to have to catch up soon. Who else have we got on there, Dol? Well, we'll give it another 10 minutes. Well, sorry, 5-6 minutes. What's the time now? It's 2 minutes past 8. Now, it's because I've never done a webinar like this before. I've done property-related webinars, so I'm really just going to be flying by the seat of my pants today, so you have to apologise. We have got a little presentation for you. John Cox is along the line. How you doing, Coxie? I did send you a message earlier, mate, so perhaps you could respond to that a bit later. But it'll be you've got your meeting on this week there, I think, and I think I might try and get along. I'm not sure what I'm doing, but I'm going to try and get along. Is it next week or this week? It's next week, isn't it? No, I can't do it next week, John. Just realised we've got one of our events on starting the 30th, so that's a shame. But we'll catch up soon, mate. Definitely catch up soon. Yeah, so this is going to be a bit off the cuff. It's not going to take any specific route. I've got obviously a plan of what I want to say and what we're going to be enlightening with you, really. I think it's the most important thing is that we will be enlightening a lot of people. So we've got over 200 now registered. So we'll give it another sort of 5-10 minutes just to let people jump on, because I don't want people to miss the valuable content that we're going to be giving today, because I think this is totally different, possibly to whatever you've seen before. And this has all come about really because of how my life's transpired over certainly the last 10 years, which I will touch on a bit later. Who else we got on the line there, Dale? Oh, you got some questions already? What we got? Well, let's have a question before we start. Thailand, someone from Thailand. It's fantastic. Welcome. We'll have a sort of contest. Who's going to be the furthest away? Who's that? Sven from Thailand. Welcome, Sven. That's a long way away, mate. That's dedication. That's what I like to see. How can I see you, Patrick? I can see you because I've got a little box there and a pane on the controllers panel. I can see who's registered, i.e. who's actually listening. So that's how I know you're there, mate. So I'm not psychic, and I'm not.
Okay, Scott, what I say, don't be nervous.
Scott, thanks, mate. I'm a lazy coach ambassador. That's fantastic. Yeah, so I am a little bit nervous. I am today, and I'll be quite honest. It's something I've never done before. Who else have we got there? Someone sitting in the bath? Who's that? Neeraj is sitting in the bath. Neeraj, come on, I didn't need to know that, mate. You're playing with your iPad, are you, I suppose? And then someone's in Thailand, someone's sitting in the bath. It's really put me off now. The thought of Neeraj in the bath, that's crazy. It's 2 AM in Thailand. Oh, well, that's fantastic, mate. 2 o'clock in the morning. Wow, dedication. So what have we got? Any other comments we got there before we get cracking? Oh, fantastic. So I think we're going to give it another couple of minutes. So I don't want people to miss out. And I do appreciate that it does take a bit of time, and sometimes you don't get there on, a little bit running behind or something, So, and yes, we're not going to be rushing this. This is something. This is really special for me, and I think I want it to be special for you as well. It's really important that you really get something from this. I'm just drinking my tea, so I do apologise because once I get cracking, I won't be having any tea. So, who else have we got on there? Yvette. My trusted assistant Yvette is going to be guiding me along with the questions and stuff while I concentrate on the presentation tonight. Oh. Cole Stewart, how you doing, Cole? Glad you could make it, mate. Angelo's on the line. How you doing, Angelo? Who? Alette. Ah, wow. Fantastic. How many we got on now? We got loads. 80 odd people on the line now. We've scheduled for 200, so I know not everyone turns up, but we'll just give it a few more minutes. Adina, hello, Adina. I'm looking forward to seeing you next week. Hope you're getting busy. Gary's on the line. How you doing, Gary? Anyway, I've got my eye on you, Patrick. Mate, I've really got my eye on you. I've got my X-ray specs to see what you're doing. You're not in the bath, are you? No, not like Neeraj. I'll never look at you the same way again, Neeraj. You know that. Embarrassing. Every time I'll be looking at you, I'll be thinking you're in the bath. Don't drop the computer in the bath, will you? Because we don't want you dropping your little iPad in there. Phil's on. How you doing, Phil? All the way up in Liverpool. Good to see you, mate. Shoulders on, sat-nav's on. Welcome aboard. This is brilliant. This is wow, they're all piling in now. So what's the time now? Let's have a quick look. It's 8 minutes. With 2 more minutes, and we'll get cracking about 10 past. And we're gonna have a great evening this evening. It's what we. Neeraj is no, that's even worse. I can't even think about Neeraj multitasking in the bath. No, please don't put any more on there. And Patrick, Yvette said please keep it clean because she's looking at the screen, not me. She's giving me the information, so she's getting it first. So behave. Come on, we want to keep it clean today. This is a family show. This is not a show for dirty old men, right, Patrick? I should be reporting you, Patrick, honestly. Who else have we got on the line? Wayne, how you doing, Wayne? Glad you could join us. Who else we got? Becky, hey, how you doing, Becky? I haven't seen you for ages. We need to catch up. We really do need to catch up. We've got a lot to talk about because you must be really killing it now, because last time you was just getting into your coaching role, so I wish you luck with that as well. So that'd be fantastic. Who else have we got on there? Joanne, how you doing, Joanne? Oh, Joanne. Sorry, she said Joanne. I'm thinking, Joanne. Joanne did text me, email me earlier saying she'll be jumping on. I will call you tomorrow. Don't worry. I haven't forgotten you. I've just been so busy with this webinar and sorting it all out. It's just been manic for the last couple of days. So I will call you. Who else we got on there, Yvette? Ray, how you doing, Ray? This is a great party. This is a great. Have we got any other comments? Not dirty ones. Nice clean ones. Come on, it's 10 past. I think we're gonna. I think we've given plenty of people plenty of time. So I'm gonna. Have you pressed the record button? And make sure we record it. That's fantastic. So I trust you're all seeing my screen. And I'm off mute. It must be because I'm getting some comments back, so that's fantastic. I'm just going to get rid of my little toolbar for the minute, and I think we'll get cracking. Now, I would like you, if you can, get a pen and paper, because we'll need that later on in the webinar. So if you can, I'll give you a couple of 30 seconds to go and get yourself a pen and paper, or you can use your computers, whatever you want to do. But it's not something to write some stuff down, because we'll be just doing a little exercise a little bit later on in the webinar. So it'll be quite handy to have. Now, as you all know, I'm Paul Ribbons. And this is the first event I've ever done of this kind. Because normally I do events that are property related, as you're probably aware. And this is called A Life Without Limits. And as the title suggests, I'm going to be speaking about how you can live a life without limits, because I always believe that the limits that we have are usually self-imposed limits. Now, I do appreciate there are times when physicalities stop people from doing certain things, but it did remind me of the guy who was in the Olympics the other week, who was running along with the rest of the athletes, the able-bodied athletes, and he had no legs. And it's interesting, in the 2008, he had to go to the governing body of the Olympics, and he had to, they said he couldn't run against the able-bodied people. And, he must have been hard for him to, because but do you know why they said he couldn't run? Because he had an advantage over everybody else. How can you have an advantage when you've got no legs? Because he had blades, he had what they call blades. They were specially designed, and they felt it gave this guy the edge. Now, he participated, he came last in his heat, but that's not the point, is it? The point is he had no limits. In his mind, he had no limits. He wanted to be equal. And this is what this is really about, really, is we do put limitations on ourselves. So this is going to last for about 90 minutes. And yeah, it might even go on for longer than that, because I really don't know where it's going to go, really. And I will be taking questions from people as we go along. Now, as most of you know, I'm involved in property. I'm a property professional. I've been a successful property trader for the best part of 16 years now. And that's what I'm known as generally. But what is lesser known about me is I'm a trained life coach and NLP practitioner. And I've utilized these over the past, and I do take personal clients. It's very rare, but I do take personal clients, and I do use some of the techniques I do with my own property clients as well. So I just want to sort of run this past about what this event is all about. When you've got every intention of doing something, right, and you know it's going to make a huge difference in your life, You know the sort of stuff I'm talking about. You know, when you say you want to do something, you want to have something, or you want to be something more than you've become. You know, you want to develop mentally. You may want to grow spiritually, or whatever you want to do. You might want to write a book or start a business or something. You know, something of that nature. Or you want to learn another language, but you might even go as far as educating yourself. You might go as far as getting certain things prepared. And you spend a lot of time doing certain things. But the thing is, it still eludes you. That thing you're after, that something you want to be, something you want to do, it still eludes you and it stops you in your tracks. And there's something between where you are and where you want to be. Something in the way. Something where you just don't seem to be able to follow through. You know, besides investing your time, you've invested money perhaps. You might have invested your reputation, right? Because we've all got reputations. We all want to be seen in the right light. But in the end, it gets so embarrassing that it's just another thing you never did. And I don't know if you've ever been in that place. I've been there many times in my life. Many times. And it gets to a stage where you just don't know what to do, and you know if you did have a way out, your life would be completely different. Well, what this event's about is helping to understand why you don't do the things you say you want to do. If you think about that, right? Why you don't do the things you say you want to do. But the important thing, right, and this is the worst thing, is you do the things you say you don't want to do. So you think about that for a second. You say you don't want to, eat too much or drink too much or, procrastinate or whatever you do a lot of, which you don't want to do, but you do plenty of that. But the things you say you want to do, you don't. Who can relate to that? Really relate to it? Because that's the thing that really gets to me, right? Why don't people do the things they say they want to do? Why? I'll show you with a little practice, and you can banish what I call metaphorical blocks. Because we all put them up, right? Every one of us put them up. And they may come across in some way as, a classic example will be, there's something in my way. Oh, I can't get it. I had one recently, right? And it was, and I'll be honest with you, it was relating to this particular webinar. Right? It was relating to this event that I was going to be doing. I've been talking about this for 3 years. But there was a metaphorical block stopping me in my way. Stopping me in my way. And I had to work out what that was. But I'm going to show you how you can banish these blocks that stop you. And you can start to live your life without limits. Because if you think about it, if you had no limits whatsoever, what would you be doing right now? No, obviously you'd be listening to my webinar, but what would you be doing? Seriously, what would you be doing? What would life be like if you lived without limits? Think about that for a second. Where would you live? Would you live in the same house, or would you live somewhere else? What would you do for a living? Or would you not work at all? But more importantly, what would you be doing for your loved ones? Because if you think about it, that's a lot of what life's about, really, isn't it? Is our loved ones. Just imagine that for a second, a life without any limits whatsoever. Because I believe the only limits you have are self-imposed limits. The ones that you've learned over the past. So I want to tell you really how this event came to pass, right? And I've got to go back in time to 2006. And I had a bit of an issue, which I will talk to you about in a short while. But I was explaining this to someone the other day, right? I've got skeletons in my cupboard. More skeletons than I've got suits. And it's them skeletons that really have made me the person I am. And I'm going to reveal some of them skeletons to you today, right? But I had an issue And I went to see someone. I went to see a coach, and it was a guy called Nick Speakman, and he's from up north. He's called the Life Coach Less Ordinary. Some of you may have seen him on the television. He's a bit on the blingy side, but he's a lovely, proper fella. And I went to see him about my issue. All right? One session, and he dealt with it. And it was difficult. It was tough. But one session, he dealt with it. He guaranteed it, right? And I was so impressed with this. And I said to him, look, you know, how did you get involved in this? And he said, look, I said, I practiced as a life, I trained as a life coach. He said, I got qualified. He said, I did an NLP course with so-and-so, whatever they were at the time. And, you know, and he said, and we were chatting about generally the things that you need, the qualities you need. And we become good mates, good pals. And the more he got to know me, the more he realized there was more to me than met the eye. Because some people see me as this, you know, bit of a Jack the Lad type character that, you know, goes out trading houses, and I've been called it quite a few times, and it does infuriate me. That sort of Del Boy character, and I don't like it. I don't like it. There's more to me than that. I'm far deeper than that. And he turned around and said to me, you know, he said, well, if you want to get involved in this, this is what you need to do. So I'm a great one for, you know, just taking action. So I just went out and I took the NLP course, and I, you know, got my practitioner's certificate, and I went out and got myself a life coaching qualification, just as he suggested, right? But here's the admission, right? This is the first skeleton in my cupboard. I was too scared to even do what I really, really wanted to do. I had limits. I didn't believe that I could have an event like this and have people turn up and want to listen to me. And you might find that hard because you've probably seen me as a very confident man, very confident. But I have feelings as well. I have deep feelings of self-doubt sometimes. But I have to break through them, right? I have to really bust through them. And it took a lot for me to do it. And so I got all qualified up, and I had a few clients, but I didn't really take it anywhere. And then I met a guy called Simon Zucchi, and he said he was into property training, and so I thought that was a great platform for effectively honing my craft. So I used the property platform and realised actually there was a lucrative business there, but secondly, it gave me that platform to build upon, right? And I've got another a mentor of mine called James Labers. He's a lovely top dude, right? And he said to me one day, and that's how he talks, dude. He said, look, dude, you've got to get your shit out there. That's what he said to me. Now, he didn't mean like shit, excuse my language. He didn't mean my crap, right? He meant the stuff that I've got deep inside me, the stuff that I inspire people with. He said, you've got to get it out there. And he threw me a challenge. He threw me a challenge, and he said, look, and I was on one of his training days, and he said, look, all you need to do is this. And he explained exactly what to do. So I banished the limitation, and I did it. And that's why you're sitting here listening to me today, because of this challenge that he sent me. And because 6 years ago, when I was sitting there with Nick Speakman, I really wanted to do something, because I knew I could change lives. I knew it. And I do it regularly with people. Now, there's a lot of people on this call, right, who have been touched by what I can give them. They've felt my energy and my insight. And so I thought, well, okay, this is it. This is a great platform for me to really just stand there and not stand there, I am standing, but explain to you how you can live your life without limits, right? Because I've had quite a few. So James was telling me, and he was encouraging me to tell my story, my real story, the story I've never told anyone, right? The one I'm embarrassed to tell people. That vulnerability, because I do believe my vulnerability is my strength, right? I believe that. But I don't go around shouting about my past. I'll tell you little things, right? And most of you know some of my story. But the real horrible stuff I don't often tell people. So after some soul searching, I knew I was born to do this, and I stumbled across a set of techniques when I trained afterwards as a life coach and NLP practitioner, and I have read so many books, it's ridiculous, right? And I've studied psychology, I've studied understanding how simple the mind is, and I've stumbled across some really straightforward, simple techniques that you can use literally to change your life. And this is the reason why we're doing this today, right? This is why we're here. Now, if you're here, right, you're intrigued. You might even be inspired by me. I've given you hope at some stage for a solution to an issue that you may have, right? And you'll recognize the blocks within yourself. You know there's blocks. You know it. You're not on this call for your health, I want to listen to what Ribbons has got to say. You're there because there's something not quite right. I know some of you are being nosy, but there's a few of you out there. But there's a problem. There's an issue that you need to address, because we've all got issues, haven't we? But it all depends on how you see an issue. I see it as an issue. You might see it as a problem. So if you're here, it's because you've been intrigued, you've been inspired, there are things that, you might be in a point in your life where enough's enough. Well, it's time to step up and be counted. Because if you are in that place, you're in the right place, I can assure you. You're definitely in the right place. Because I believe that everyone has the right to be free of limits, right? Free of pain. Because if you think about this logically, what is pain? If you're living with limits, it's usually revolving around some sort of pain somewhere in your life. It's someone said something to you when you was a kid, some teacher might have said something to you, your partner might be holding you back. There are things of sense of insecurity. There's things going on in your background, and you build a metaphor to protect yourself against something. Now, when we break pain down, right, physical pain, think about this, right? You break your leg. What happens? It hurts. Obviously it hurts, right? But here's the thing, right? When you break your leg, there's pain immediately. Your leg's broken. But what we don't realize sometimes, and I think this is the magical thing about the human body, your body sets out to repair that leg. And when does the pain subside? The pain subsides when the wound is healed. That's what it says. So all pain is a message to the brain saying, keep off this leg because it's broken and I need to mend it. That's what it is, right? Because we think the doctor fixes it. All he does is set it in the right place. The body repairs it. They just put it in a cast to keep it straight. Otherwise you might have a wonky leg. Because if you've broken it and it's sticking out at a right angle, it will repair itself at a right angle. And here's the thing, right? It's actually stronger than what it was before. So pain is just a message to the brain, right? Physical pain. But what is emotional pain? That's the one I'm interested in. Because I carried that for a long while. And you notice what I said? Carried. I carried it for a long while. No, I don't carry it any longer. I carried it. I put it down, got rid of it. That metaphor I had to dig that one out. It took a long while I was, I used to carry that crap around with me. And it wasn't until I banished that block that it was a big problem. It was always, oh, my past is this, my past is that emotional pain. And we've all got emotional pain somewhere, haven't we? So I spent the last 5 years with lots of different people, right? And it's sometimes it's the simplest little things that make a difference in people's lives. I know Neville's on this call, and I've done a little video of Neville, right? And it's interesting because Neville had an issue, and all I did with Neville was reveal the metaphor. I didn't want to know the content of what his problem was. You know, I knew he was angry. I knew he was carrying this anger around with him, and he described it to me. And we spent probably 10 minutes on that one thing, not even that. And Neville tells the story about his sibling, and he had a problem with his sibling, and every time he saw his sibling, he used to get angry, right? He said his heartbeat used to race fast every time he saw him. And the thing was, he'd been to see someone about it, and they were trying to let go and do what you had to do. Excuse me, because I've just noticed that our presentation's going on its own, so I do apologise. But Neville realised that, you know, he'd been to see people and tried to deal with it by letting it go and, you know, in a spiritual way. But unless you get rid of the metaphor first, it doesn't matter what you do. It's irrelevant. It doesn't matter, because that block's always going to be there, because it protects us. And we got rid of that block for Neville, right? And the funny thing was, literally a couple of days later, he saw his sibling. He saw him in Tesco's. And I said, how did you get on? He went, well, it was just like talking to you, like a friend. He said it had gone. Now he can heal. Now he can deal with the issue he had in hand. He can deal with it with a clear head, because he hasn't got this anger he's been carrying around with him. And that's powerful, when you can get to that point where all of a sudden you've let go. There was another guy, a client of mine, who had a problem with his ex-wife. And every time he used to go round to his whole house, right, he used to really rip him apart. And that's what this guy would do. He used to rip me apart. So I said, so tell me a bit more about it. He said, every time I go in there, my furniture's there. My furniture. Some bloke is living in my house with my kids, sitting on my furniture. Now, it wasn't about the bloke and it wasn't about the kids. It was about his furniture. Because he was still living there. In his head, he was still living at his ex-wife's house. They'd been divorced for 5 years. Every single time he went there, he got angry, they used to have a row. He said, she's unreasonable. And I could see it actually wasn't. Yeah, she was a pain, but he was reacting in the wrong way because he was in the wrong place. We dealt with his metaphor. We unpacked him from his ex-wife's house. He's never had a problem since. He goes round to his ex-wife, they get on reasonably well now. They don't obviously get on like lovey-dovey because they're divorced, right? But there's civilization there now all of a sudden. They're civil to each other. He can deal with her awkwardness because he's no longer attached in his mind. He had that metaphorical block that was stopping him from moving on. And there was another one who came to see me where she couldn't let her ex-boyfriend go. That's what she was saying. I couldn't let him go. So I said, okay, so how do you let him go? We dealt with that straightforward metaphor. When she left my office, right, I asked her, so what are you going to do if he calls you tomorrow? She said, well, I'm going to delete his number. And she deleted it out of his phone. And she got over him like that. Why? All because of a simple metaphor. She was holding on to him. Even my beautiful wife had an issue. Holding on to something. Because it's what it meant to her at the time. And when she let go of it, and she realised that actually it wasn't what she thought, her life changed beyond recognition with the person that she had the issue with. And now they have a wonderful relationship. All because she let that metaphor go. We busted, we banished it. And this is what this is all about, really. Now, we have got limited time together today, right? There's only so much I can deal with tonight because, you know, we're going to be here for another hour or so, but there's so much I want to be able to show you and explain that I will be letting you know that we are holding a one-day event, and I'll explain to you at the end of this webinar how you can get involved, because if you're on here, you're taking this seriously. And I can't deal with everybody on this line, because how many people are on it? 99 people have actually attended this webinar, right? Will we make the 100? That's the question. Right? But I can't deal with every single person on this call, right? I can't do it. So at the end of the 24th of November 2012, I'm holding a one-day event, and it's called not A Life Without Limits, it's called Your Life Without Limits. Because then we move on to the next stage, because there is a stage that we need to go through first, then we need to do other simple techniques to get you out the other side as well. All right? So I'll explain to you at the end of this how you can get involved with this, because it's going to be jam-packed with practical exercises that you can use in your everyday life. You know that them times when you're about to blow your stack because someone said something they shouldn't have done, or someone's questioned you. We'll have little techniques that you can stop yourself in mid-flow. I mean, I even used this technique years ago, and it's a sad situation, but a young kid, 6-year-old kid, run out in front of my car. Just run out, straight out. Lucky enough I was only doing 20 miles an hour. But can you imagine what that was like, knocking a child over? It was tough. And this technique I used, I had to literally disassociate from that particular event because I couldn't think straight. Because knocking a child over is traumatic. So I'll give you techniques that you can use in a traumatic situation where you're not emotionally involved when you've got to deal with it, because sometimes you can't be emotionally involved. Like afterwards when I was talking to the police, I can't be all over the place. I need to be in the right place. I need to be present, not off with the fairies because oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Little techniques, really powerful ones that are life-changing. And how to bring absolute certainty in your life, because when you come from a place of certainty, you do not have a lot of confidence. Imagine what you could do if you had absolute confidence, because you've got that life of certainty. So I just want to explain. You remember I said to you I went to see that guy, Nick Speakman, because I had a bit of an issue. I want to tell you a little bit about my background. Now, some of you know I got to the age of 23. I tell this story quite regularly. The age of 23, and I realised I'd lived longer than my mother had. Now, I was 3.5 years old when my mum died, right? And it was a tough one, a real tough one. You know, can you imagine a 3.5-year-old losing his mother? My dad couldn't cope with it. My dad disappeared as well. So I not only lost one parent, I lost both parents at the time. I mean, he did come back, but we didn't see him for 6 months. He just went on the missing list. He couldn't handle it. My nan looked after us. Now, can you imagine what it's like with a little kid calling for his mummy all the time? They sort of semi-spoiled me and my sisters. They semi-spoiled us because, you know, they felt sorry for us. And what do you do when a kid keeps crying for his mum? You're going to give him what he wants or what she wants. And my dad remarried when he was 7. And used to live with my nan up until the age of 7. And my new mum, my stepmum, was, you know, we couldn't wait to, you know, call her mum and stuff. And, you know, we was looking forward to it. And it was going to be great. And she used to come round, you know, our house, my nan's house. And, you know, she used to stay over and we used to, you know, have this great family environment. And I thought life was going to be rosy, right? I was in for a big shock. Because all of a sudden, it was Spangles. I call it Spangles Day because I remember this like it was yesterday, right? I was 7 years of age. And I turned up. My nan took us over to our new home where Dad and my stepmum, Pat, was going to be living, all right, with us. And this is the first time we'd been in Pat's clutches, and I say clutches, first time without my nan or anyone being present. So this was going to be her normal environment. We was going to see her in her normal environment, not with a pretend, oh, this lovely family environment. My nan dropped us off and she, you know, waved goodbye to us and gave us some sweets as she always did. So we're 7, right? I got a packet of Spangles And I'm sitting in the kitchen of Cleveland Park Avenue, and I remember it really well, right? And I got me packet of Spangles, and I used to eat them quite quickly. 7-year-old, packet of sweets. What you do? Just shove them all in, don't you? We've all been there. Some of us aren't quite as greedy as me, perhaps, but save a few for later. But I was whopping them down, and she walked over. She grabbed the Spangles and she said to me, "You greedy little git." She'd spoken to me like she'd never spoken to me before. And I was horrified. I was 7. I was a little bit spoiled, I must admit. But this was a bit of a shock, right? All of a sudden, this woman changed. And you know that old thing about stepmothers and, you know, Cinderella? My name's not Cinderella, obviously, but you get the drift, right? And it wasn't, we was imprisoned in a way. We wasn't allowed sweets, cakes or biscuits or ice cream or anything like that. And we used to get locked in our room when they used to go out. And it wasn't until my brother came along that we realised the difference between our lives and the way he was treated. There was such a gulf. Such a gulf. My father was, you know, bless him, he found it difficult, you know. I remember, this is so sad, right? I remember him, my stepmother saying to him, "Sort your children out." And as she went out the door, he got his slipper in his hand. He was hitting my sister with it. As soon as Pat walked out the door, he started hitting the chair. What message are we supposed to get from that? While she's there, he's going to hit us. When she's not, he's not going to hit us. He was so scared of her. We were petrified of her. But we were starving kids. I mean, I don't think people realise sometimes what it's like to be really hungry. And then one day I was really hungry one night, and I crept downstairs to the kitchen, and I got myself a slice of bread, and I put some chocolate spread all over it, and the door opened. And it was her, right, looking at me. And she said, "You greedy git." And she got the bread with the chocolate sauce on it, and she rubbed it in my face and then sent me to bed with it on my face. I wasn't allowed to take it off all night. But the worst thing was, as the door opened, I pissed myself. I was so scared. And that's what life was like as a kid, right? And I was lucky in a way because I was strong enough to deal with it. Because I thought, I ain't going to let you treat me like this. And I did rebel, right? When I got to about 12, 13, I started rebelling. But I rebelled in a big way, And I realised that I could have anything I wanted. I didn't realise, and I don't like to admit this, right? But it's the truth. I became a thief. I used to nick things because I couldn't get it. I was so hungry. I remember sitting there one day looking through the bin for something to eat. Now, I don't know if you've ever been in that place. I don't think many people have, right? But it's a horrible place to be, right? When you've got to look for a bin for something to eat. Now, I'm really resourceful now, right? And I was resourceful then in them days. I started realising that we sat around the supermarket, that we could probably, you know, nick some of the shopping and keep some of the money. So I got to 12, 13, and I was quite a naughty little lad in the end, because I've been conditioned into believing that every single person in your life lets you down. My mum died, right? She let me down. She didn't mean to, but she did. In real terms, I was abandoned. My nan didn't see us again after she dropped us off because we weren't allowed to see her. So she disappeared, right? My stepmother let me down because I was expecting some big things from her. She was an angel when she was at my nan's. As soon as she was in her own environment, she was horrible. My dad let me down because he didn't stick up for us. And then, ultimately, at 16, my sister let me down because she went to New Zealand. So I grew up believing that it was me versus the world, right? That was one of my metaphors. Me versus the world. It was a fight. It was like a battle, right? I could not rely on nobody else. No one. I couldn't rely on anyone. And then we got really entrepreneurial with thieving, right? I realised if I nicked someone's push bike and sprayed it, I could sell it for more money. So my mate used to spray them, I used to nick them. I'm not proud of that, right? Honestly, I'm not proud of it. I hate admitting it. I've never admitted that before. But you know the thing was, I nicked someone's bike, and then I was, what, 15? Someone saw me riding it. And the kid I nicked it off was a bit hard, like a bit tough. But he didn't come round to get his bike. He got his mum to come round, right? And his mum was mean. She was a God-fearing woman, right? Gospel-type, God-fearing woman. You can imagine it, right? She weren't having none of it. And she came round my house, along with, I reckon it must have been half the borough, right? That's what it felt like at the time. Turned up at my stepmother's house. Now she is like going to give me such a, because I haven't mentioned, we used to get physically abused as well as mentally abused, and you know, abused in a food sense, you know, and it, so I knew I was in big bother. I mean, you can't go around nicking things and not get into trouble, can you? All right, but I was so oblivious to it. And this kid's mother looked at me in the eye. I could see the pity in her eyes, right? I really could see the pity. And she said, one day, you're going to have to face Jesus. Now, I'm not really that religious, or certainly wasn't at the time. But I looked in her eyes, and I knew it was wrong. I knew it was wrong. What I was doing was wrong. And it gave me such a kick up the backside, I never did it again. It was the straight and narrow. I couldn't do it. Just a look, and it wasn't the fear of my stepmother that changed. In fact, she'd have given me a beating, I would have probably done it even more. But the way that woman looked at me with pity, she'd done me the biggest favour I've ever had done to me. And that was it. Change. And I decided then that I wasn't going to allow this. But the problem was, all the crap that I dealt with, I was carrying around with me. So I was using stealing as my sort of way of numbing. My way of getting, you know, just taking the sheen off the problems. Does that make sense? Because your issues may not be as bad as mine, but we've all got issues that we hide from. You know, we bury them, don't we? We don't want to bring them up. And this is well, I was all right until about 20. In fact, it was when I got out of estate agent into estate agents. I had a social life. When I was a baker, I was okay because I had no social life. But as soon as I became an agent, I had a social life, and then I discovered something, and that was called alcohol. And I realised that you could numb your feelings with alcohol. I did it for years. I didn't do it I wasn't an alcoholic, but I did drink virtually every day. Now I know a lot of people do drink every single day, right? Because I was coming home from a tough day at work, right? And that tough day at work, I got to calm myself down and have a drink, right? So I'd do that, have a drink. I'd have a great day at work. I'd come home and have a drink. And it was my way of coping. But what I didn't realise was, over a period of time, that numbing needs more numbing. So you find other ways to do it, or you increase the dose. And it got to a stage where that's why I went to see Nick in 2006. And the worst thing was, as a dealer, I had more time, more money. It was more time to go and have a few jars of beer. And I was doing it regularly. And I went to see Nick. I said, I don't want to have a drink again. But the problem was, right, once you take the numbing sensation away, then everything comes up. And the last 6 years, I've had to deal with this. I've had to deal with every single little thing. I've gone back in my life and forgiven people for the way they treated me. My stepmother's brother was even worse. My step-uncle was even worse to us than our stepmother. We found out, he was abusing, sexually abusing members of my family. And we grew up with this, and I had to cope with all this crap, right? And it makes you do things you don't necessarily want to do, but when you're left with it, you've got to deal with it. You've got to face it, right? So I had to face it. And then I realised what I was carrying around with me. Mine was really simple, right? It wasn't until we got to that point where the metaphor, there was two metaphors I was using. One, I was being held back by my stepmother by a great big tube. And then when I cut the tube, she blew off in the background like a balloon. And once I did that, I could then deal with the other issues around her. And, because obviously I got to do some forgiving. Because forgiveness on its own, while I'm still attached to it, is not going to help me. It's not going to help me at all. And so, here's the thing, right? People see my life now and they think, wow, what a wonderful life he's got. But it's not been that way all the time. My wife, my wonderful wife, had cancer, throat cancer in 2003. We didn't know if she was going to live or die. An aggressive form of cancer. We just caught it in time. We didn't, but the surgeon did. It hit her lymph gland. She could have been dead within 6 months. They didn't know. It was touch and go. We had to deal with that crap. We had to deal with bankruptcy in the past because of, years ago I was spending too much. People don't, another skeleton in the cupboard. People don't know this. All because I wouldn't pay the tax many, many years ago. Or I didn't not pay the tax, I didn't pay the tax. And it was, and you know what, this is funny, right? It must have been about 4 years ago. And life's really sweet, because I promise you now, life is really sweet for me now. It really is. There's very few things that I get upset about nowadays. There's very few things that even bother me. But I was talking to a friend's daughter a little while ago, and I'd read this book, Change Your Life in 7 Days by Paul McKenna. And I was telling her about it, and I said, your dad should read it. And she said, is it that good then? So I said, yeah, I've read it 3 times. And she said, but your life's perfect. Why have you read it? And I said, it's because I read it. My life's perfect in your eyes. Because I've done work on myself. That's why my life appears to be perfect. Because I've got off my backside and done something about it. That's why my life appears to be perfect. It wasn't that way. It was never going to be that. I should have been on the scrap heap, right, many years ago. No education. But I'm not. I'm successful. I've got something about me. I had entrepreneurial skills, as you know, a very long while ago in the wrong area. So it's not always been the way that you see it. It's not always been that way. So now you've got a little idea of what I'm about and where I've come from. I want you to sort of introduce you to how I see the world nowadays, because it's completely different to what I used to see it before. I've educated myself, I understand things now. But every single person, every single one of us is unique and special. No one is the same. No one. There's not a person alive that's the same. If you did have someone who's the same as you, you'd freak out because it's a clone. Someone's cloned you. Will it happen one day? We don't know. But it would freak you out if you had found someone exactly the same as you. We're all unique. We've all got special gifts and talents. And if we understand that, it leads on to the second thing, right, is that I believe, and I use my own examples in this, right, there's 3 layers, there's 3 sleeves. Now, do you remember when that woman looked in my eyes and she said, one day you're going to have to face Jesus, right? I knew what I was doing was wrong. Because we've all got an authentic self, what I call an authentic self. That real, true you inside you. The one that very few people get to see. Very few people. Because you hide it. Because vulnerability is scary. Because we do believe that if I'm vulnerable, right? If I'm vulnerable, do you know what that means? Someone's going to take advantage of me. I can't be vulnerable, can I? Well, actually, yes, you can. Because that is your strength. I promise you, it's my strength. I've been vulnerable today, haven't I? Have I been vulnerable? Bearing my soul, my skeletons? Because I think unless you can, people don't really know who you are. Because you've got a pretend self. You've got a mask that you put over it. There's a mask that you show the world. This bravado, this side of me that, you know, I want to show you because I don't want you to see the vulnerable me. And usually that pretend self, that Paul McKenna talks this about in his book, Change Your Life in 7 Days. It's usually, right, created because of your feared self, of who you really fear you are. Because the person you fear being, I'll tell you how to reveal that, right? You know when you meet someone, you just don't like them, you don't get on with them? It's usually because what you see in them, you fear in yourself. What you see in them, you fear in yourself. So there's a couple of people that I come across recently and I just didn't like them. And I recognised that what I didn't like about them is I feared about myself. It's not me. I ain't going to worry about fearing it, so I have to let it go. I have to let that go and be vulnerable to it. Not try and put some pretend self on. I'm not going to do that. I won't do that. I won't betray myself any longer. You know, I've done it for years, up until 2006, in different guises, different ways. I won't do that any longer. But I ask you, who don't you like and what do you fear about yourself? Because we don't like to be ridiculed, right? That's one thing human beings don't like. And they don't like to be ostracized. And that's what we fear, being ostracized. So we might even put a pretend self on because we want people to like us. Because we don't want to be ostracized. It makes sense. So your feared self, but ultimately inside you, you have your what I call your authentic self. That authentic self, right, has got such a small voice, but you know when you walk up to someone and you think, I'm not sure about you, and you think, oh yeah, maybe, maybe not, and then what you'll end up doing, right, is you might go and do business with them, and then 3 months, 6 months down the road, geez, I knew he was going to do that. That's your authentic self guiding you. It's there to keep you safe. But we ignore it at our peril. How many times have you done it? I've done it loads of times. Honestly, 3 businesses I've had in the last 10, no more than that, 16 years. I started up with 3 separate individuals. And every single time, as I've gone in now, I'm thinking, well, I'm not sure about this. That was my authentic self talking. That was my inner guidance, right? Telling me don't get involved. But I did get involved. All right, okay. Every business that I started, I sold at a profit or, you know, sold it on, and it was reasonably successful. But there were problems. I had to get out because one of them was embezzling. One of them was slagging me off behind my back, it being all nice to my front. And the other one didn't have a clue what he was doing. And I spent more time in the office than I should have done. But every single time, I was being told by my authentic self, don't get involved. Don't get involved. And that authentic self, you know, lets us know certain things. Because I want to explain to you how I see the mind, right? Now, it's been proven that we've got a conscious mind and a subconscious mind. And the problem with the subconscious mind is that we imprint it with certain things, and that's where your metaphors come from. You know, I was telling you about, I like to dig around for metaphors, right? If you find someone's metaphors, you find them. Sometimes I have to dig really deep for people because they're not letting me in there. There's resistance because people don't like change. They don't want to be vulnerable. They don't want to reveal this thing. But deep inside the subconscious mind, there are things. This is how powerful subconscious mind is, right? You remember I said about pain and your body heals itself? The conscious mind doesn't do that. The subconscious does. Look at it this way, right? Have you bought a computer, and when you go and buy a computer, they said, what sort of memory do you want? Your RAM, your random access memory, right? That's the memory where if you've got a program opened, it's running the program for you, actually in the memory itself, right? It's stored on the hard drive, which is your subconscious, right? And your RAM is like your conscious. Now, if you have too many programs open at once in your random access memory, what happens to your computer? It slows down, or if it's a PC, it probably crashes, right? I mean, I've got a Mac, and I do a lot of video work. So when I'm uploading a video, I can't use nothing else. So I had to increase the RAM because it's just so slow. And if you think about when you've got too much on your mind, what happens to your brain? It's like brain fries, and it's like it's all over the place. You know, it just drives us nuts because we can't cope with too many things. I mean, I know Neeraj was not multitasking in the bath earlier, but we can't do too many things in our conscious mind. Our subconscious mind deals with things like our heartbeat, our body temperature. Do you realise your body temperature doesn't fluctuate? No matter what the temperatures are, you could be -20, but your body temperature will be the same. That's how fascinating your body is. And your subconscious mind is running that in the background. It runs the healing of a wound. It deals with things. But think of it another way would be, I hope that most people drive, right? I'm not assuming most people drive, but I'm going to use driving because most people do drive, right? When you when you say you're 15, you don't know, you don't even think about driving, right? So you're not consciously aware you can't drive, and you can't drive because you're incompetent. So you're unconscious, incompetent. You get to 17, 18, you think, God, you know, I'd love to be able to learn to drive. Then you become consciously aware that you can't drive. So what do? You take lessons. So that's that second stage. What's happened here? Sorry, this has jumped. The second stage is unconscious incompetence. And then on the third stage is you become conscious, competent, because you learn to drive, so you're consciously aware about driving. You're thinking about mirror signal maneuver, changing gear, accelerating, braking, left turn, right turn, that sort of stuff. You're consciously aware, but you know you're competent now. But think about, I don't know what's happening here. In fact, you be careful because you're clicking it and it's moving. Sorry about this. But the fourth part is when you become unconscious competent. Because how many of you drove today? Did you remember indicating, turning left, changing gear? You do it automatically, don't you? And that's the power of the subconscious mind. Once you've done something on a regular basis, you then become automatic at it. But also, this comes down to your limits as well. Because what happens when you limit yourself is that your subconscious accepts that limitation and then says, that's the way it is, that's the way it is, you're not going to be doing that. And he'll do everything to stop you from doing it because your subconscious is in control, not your conscious mind. Because you've done it for so long, told yourself, it's not going to happen. That's not what I do. Beliefs are formed inside your subconscious mind that you don't even know what are there. They're deep down seated beliefs you haven't got a clue about. It takes years to dig some of these little so-and-sos out without any help. And this is the way the conscious and the subconscious mind work. They work in tandem, but it's just like imprinted like a hard drive on your computer where the actual thing is stored. And you know when you get that emotional tug, you know something's wrong, but you don't actually know what to do about it. We all know when things are wrong and when they're right, don't we? We all know that. So it's that emotional tug we have to consider when it comes up, because the subconscious mind doesn't lie to us. It doesn't lie. It tells us as it is. And we've got to understand that before we can move forward. And how many times do you get this, right? Oh, by the way, just before we talk about hypnotic self-talk, imagine the subconscious mind and the way perhaps where what I call social hypnotic conditioning works, where advertisers are pumping you full of little messages you don't even realize are going into your subconscious mind. Because unless you're guiding it against what they're trying to say, it goes in. You let it in. And when you let it in, it might become a belief. You know, you might find yourself craving over a certain brand because it makes you feel good, because they've socially hypnotic conditioned you in advertising to get you to buy their product. So be careful with your subconscious mind. Keep guard to it. I promise you, you'll be surprised what goes in there. But hypnotic self-talk, how many... Listen, we all talk to ourselves. We've all got a little voice in our brain. That's not the same as your authentic self, because that voice is very quiet and still. This is the one that goes in your head, "Hey, you an idiot, what's the matter with you? What you do that for?" They're not going to think that. That's the one where you're constantly talking to yourself in a hypnotic way, because language is really powerful. I'll tell you how language is powerful, right? I want you to think about the word you use for getting upset. The word you use. Now, I use the word fucked off. Use my language, I use that. That's where I go. I get really fucked off, right? Now, just saying that is invoked into me because I've stacked every time I've been fucked off in the same place, right? Now, you can probably tell, right, my energy's changed, right? And I'm... What's your word? Say it out loud, right? I can't hear you, nor can the rest of the other people, but say it out loud. What's your word you use? She's pissed off, you know, whatever it is. I mean, what word do you use, Yvette? Pissed off, right? I mean, she's pissed off. You can see the muscles in her face tense up. Now, but this is interesting, right? I want you to replace that word with something really silly, like peeved off. So if I ask you to get peeved off, Yvette, what would you... You're laughing straight away, right? Think about it, right? Peeved off. It invokes a different feeling because you've got no references for peeved off. But you've got loads of references for the one that makes you angry or you get upset with. So just changing the language in your mind can have a major difference to the way you see the world and how you react to it. So when someone's coming up towards you and they're flashing their lights or they cut you up, this is what I do now. I wish you well. I wish you well. God bless you. I love you. Wish you well. I don't even know the person, right? But if I don't, and I think you fucking idiot, then I get fucked off, and I get fucked off, I get angry, and that then ruins my day. Makes sense, does it? Can you see how hypnotic self-talk can have a big effect on your life? And this is I want to share this with you, right? Because this is a classic example. People get effed off because of someone said something to them. It's their opinion, right? Yeah, you got your opinion, but this is what happens with an opinion. It's like a gift. If I give you a gift and you don't want it, and you give it back to me. I buy the gift for you, and you say, no, I want you to have it. It's yours. I don't want it. Who does that gift belong to? It belongs to the person who said, I want to buy that gift. Whoever bought it, it belongs to, right? And that's the same as an opinion. If someone gives me their opinion, thank you very much, but you can keep your opinion. I may look at their opinion and just say, okay, or can I use it in some way? Is it going to be beneficial to me? Like the gift, is it going to be beneficial to me? If I give you the gift, am I going to be your bitch for the rest of my life? No. If you give it willingly and it's done genuinely, then I may take it. Right? Same as your opinion. But as soon as I take your opinion, I own it. Does that make sense? As soon as I react to it, I own it. If I turn around and say, and this is interesting, right? It doesn't matter whether the opinion is good or bad. And this, people say to me, yeah, I'm not bothered about what he says about me. But when they say something good about him, oh, is he saying that about me? Oh, isn't that nice? If you are concerned about someone's good feelings about, opinions about you, then you care about what they say bad about you as well, because you cannot have one without the other. Does that make sense? So when someone cheeses you off because of, they've said something you don't like, just remember, it's a gift. You can give it back to them. So thanks ever so much for your opinion. That's what it is, your opinion. Thank you. That's it. Don't own it. Don't take it. Now, I mentioned this earlier, right? Numbing emotions. I numb my emotions, but I worked this out the other day. I was listening to, I can't remember her name now, someone on YouTube. And I'd said this many years ago, right? I remember saying it. Whatever you do, right? You may have a drug of choice, i.e. fags, booze, might even be recreational drugs. I don't know who, who does what behind closed doors. And it could be you use food as a drug of choice. You could use love or sex. I don't know, whatever you use, right? But if you're trying to numb one emotion, you can't just numb one. You numb the whole lot. You numb all the emotions. You can't suppress just one feeling. You suppress the whole lot. Does that make sense? Think about it. If you're trying to numb pain, you're numbing everything. Think about alcohol. It's a depressant. It pushes down pain. But it pushes down everything. You become numb inside. And that leads on to something really that it's really, I've got to say, life is simple, people complicate it. Now, I've got a picture of old Steve Jobs up there, God rest his soul, right? And he's holding an iPhone. And he came out before he died and said, simplicity is difficult. Because as human beings, we naturally try and complicate things. Because it can't be that simple, can it? No, it can't be. Because we're complex creatures, you see. So we think. Because we've got these complex pretend selves, we've got this, how can I put it? It's hierarchy, this peer group we're looking up to, and we're told that this is the way we're supposed to do things. This is, I was told as a kid, right, that if you wanted to get on in life, you had to have an education. What a pot of crock. Crock a pot? I don't know. Crock of shit. I think it's actually the word I was thinking of, so apologies, another swear word. What a crock of shit. It is. I've proved you don't need education. I've proved it. And it's interesting how, because of our complex ways, this is what we assume we need to do to get on in life. But actually, life's more simple than that. And if you think about it logically, you've got two codes of conduct. You've got nature's code, right? Nature's code is so simple and straightforward. You're designed to do two things. As a human being, you're designed to do two things. One is survive, and the other one is to procreate. Is to keep your species alive. That's what you're programmed to do. It's as simple as that. But then we have society's code that encompasses religion and civil laws and stuff like that, our communities. We've got a code of conduct that says you've got to do this, that and the other. Now, I had a survival mechanism kicking in when I was a kid, right? And that was, I'd go down the bins and nick something out of the bins just to survive, right? I would go and steal something to survive. A magpie steals other birds' eggs and eats the eggs. Other birds attack each other. Animals attack each other. They take other things off other animals. There's bullies in the natural world. We have to understand that's the way it is. We obviously have got laws and we've got rules and regulations to stop us from being like the animals. That's what separates us. We've got a conscious mind, right? But watch nature. It's simple. It's straightforward. And we can take our clues from nature. We don't have to take the bad. We can take the good. Because there's a cycle. You know, animals live in harmony, really, most of the time. Unless it's feeding time. But we do the same things. We don't do it and go out hunting and throw spears at animals anymore. We slaughter them and eat them. Unless you're vegetarian, of course. But that's what we do. We just take it for granted that, oh, our supermarket produces our food, but we kill animals to eat them. So we're no different to animals as far as, you know, getting our food. But if we understand how simple the process is, we have a greater understanding about ourselves inside. We're simple, straightforward, mechanical machines in a way. Very clear. The brain is very, very sophisticated, but very simple at the same time. So life is simple. It's people that complicate it. Because we strive for things, right? Physical stuff. You're going to believe that having a Rolls Royce or a Sunseeker might make you happy, right? Now, another revelation from Ribbons today is I remember when I bought my Bentley Continental GT. I don't own it anymore, got rid of it. But this was prior to really having an enlightenment. And I believed, because I was still in that world prior to 2006, that material things would make me happy. That was another way of numbing the pain, right? What I didn't realize was none of it makes you happy. Listen, having more money is going to make your life easier. I promise you that. Because I've had both, none and money. And I've had it lost and I got it back again, right? It's hard. But having things, possessions, is not going to make you happy. Because that doesn't make you happy. Because how many times have you ever been in that situation? We've had lots of money, and how many people do you know that are wealthy and not happy? In fact, when you're wealthy, you've got another set of problems, because all of a sudden, you wonder why they want to be your friend. Because if you're a bit paranoid because you're trying to get money to make you feel better, like I used to, why are they being my mate? Are they being my mate because they want something from me? Because it comes with another set of problems, another set of paranoia. But how many times do you get stuff, right? And this is the thing, and this is what I was trying to explain with the Bentley. When I got the Bentley, and I remember driving down the road in it, I'd had it about 4 months, and I was driving down the A2 past Bluewater. And it was interesting. I was driving it down, and I got so used to driving it, it was just a car, right? And in the rear view mirror, it's dusk, in the rear view mirror I see two blue headlights, you know them blue headlights the expensive cars have, right? And a lovely grille. I could see it was a Bentley grille, and he purred up. I wound down the window, not physically, electric window. I pulled the window down, right? And I just listened to it as it purred past. It's a lovely exhaust note. And then I realised I was driving one. I got so used to driving it, it was immaterial. It was pathetic. But do you know something? Do you know what meant more to me than that? Is in 2006 I set out to change. Deal with my demons, as I used to call them, right? deal with the metaphorical blockages. And one of the things I did is I actually trained to be a Samaritan. And the other one I did was, it was suggested to me by a guy called Tony Robbins. Most of you would have probably heard of Tony Robbins. On one of his CDs I had, he suggested that you go into an old age folks home and go and just cheer someone up. Well, you can't just do that today. You have to go and be CRB checked, right? So I went and got CRB checked in 2006. And I used to go down and see this lonely old sod called Bob, right? Now, here's the thing with Bob, right? Bob was unmarried. Unmarried, been lived with his mum all his life, and he got to 82, his mum had died, he got to 82 and he couldn't look after himself anymore, so he went into the home. His brother said, come on, you've got to go into the home. So he went to the home, and he never used to come out of his room. He used to stay in his room all day. So I said to the woman, who's the lonely old sod? And she went, Bob. And she said, if you can get him out of his room, you're about. I told her I was, trained to be a coach and done all this and the other. And she said, oh, great. If you can get him out of his room, you're a better person than I am. Right? Now, I didn't do it because I wanted to be a better person than her. I did it because I could see the man's pain. And I think I said earlier, I don't like to see people suffer. I don't like it. If I see your pain, I want to try and help you. And I could see this man's pain, and he was very skeptical of me. And I said, my name's Paul, Bob. I said, do you believe in God? He said, yeah. I said, well, I don't know why I'm here, but, let's just say God sent me, right? So I used to go and see him every week, and he used to get up. I used to go and see him. He was very skeptical. It was like trying to pull teeth, trying to get a conversation out of him. And I'd ask him lots of questions. I had a little bit of inside information on him. The nurses had told me that he did this, did that, so we had conversations about that. But he was not talking at all. It was real hard work. I was even questioning. I even said to Yvette one day, I don't know why I bother, and she said, why are you doing it, Paul? Why are you doing it? For yourself or for him? And she made me think, actually, you're right. It doesn't matter what I think. This is about Bob. It's about cheering Bob up, not cheering Paul up. This is all part of my transition. So off I went back to see Bob. Every week I used to go there. On the third week I got there, he's not in his room. I thought, Jesus, he doesn't even want to see me, all right? So I went to the nurse. I said, well, Bob's not in his room. She went, no, he's out in the lounge, all dressed up. I went, really? She went, yeah. In fact, yesterday he come out of his room, got all dressed up, went in the lounge and waited for her because he thought it was Thursday and it was Wednesday. And I thought, he must have sat there thinking I'm not going to turn up. Must have thought I was a right so-and-so. Let him down. But obviously he realised what day it was. But guess what? I'd got Bob out of his room. God, that meant more to me than any Bentley I could ever own. And you know the thing was, I remember sitting there with him, right? And I'd say to him, I'd chat the old girls up for him, right? And I said to him, who's this? And this is my friend Bob, and introduce him, and he'd start talking. He'd laugh because he knew what I was up to. He knew I was trying to get him in the conversation, right? There was no flies on Bob. He was quite smart. But he used to look forward to me coming to see him. He used to look forward to it. Bob died within 6 months of me seeing him, right? It was real sad. But I just know, right? I know. I don't get emotional about Bentleys, but I get emotional about Bob because I know I made a difference in his life for the last 6 months. I know I made a difference because we're put on earth, right, to serve. It's about giving. It's not about taking. It's not about the buck. It's about the giving. That cemented me. I tell you, that really cemented me. I realised this wasn't about me. All them years I thought it was about me. I thought I was alone in the universe. I wasn't. I was just being one little tiny thing within an ecosystem that was just wonderfully simple. And I was part of that. So having things can leave you feeling empty, but they'll never make you feel like doing something to someone and you made a difference in their lives. I promise you that. I promise you. In the Eastern world, right, they believe that it comes from within. Right? We're looking on the Western world. We're always looking for something outside of us to make us happy. Happiness is within. I was talking to a neighbour of mine, and she's a Buddhist, right? And she was saying, "Oh, I wish I had your life. Oh, you got lovely things, and you don't work. You know, you spend a lot of time at home with your family." And I said to her, "Look, I'm striving for your quality of life, your Buddhist way of life, of looking internally. But you're still looking outside of yourself, and your religion teaches this." But so many people, even some of these Eastern countries, are being switched over to consumerism. Now, I'm not here to bash consumerism or bankers or greed or whatever, because that's the way it is, right? I don't get upset about it. I just know the difference. I know what nourishes my soul. I know that no matter how much money you've got, it's not going to make really a great deal of difference. Because once you get over a certain limit, you don't need it. It's like oxygen. You need money, but you don't need excessive amount of money. Because we're always searching for something, aren't we? We believe it's going to give us something, security, freedom, whatever it's going to be. It's going to make us feel better. But actually, I promise you, Mother Teresa made a living out of it. Serving other people. Looking within. But you know something, right? You don't own anything. You only look after it for the next generation. That's all you do. So it's a possession that you look after. You don't own your house. Someone will own it again when you've gone, right? But here's the thing, right? You come with nothing. Absolutely nothing. You're born naked, vulnerable. Do you know what happens to a baby if it doesn't get love in the first few hours of its life? It dies of failure to thrive syndrome. We are there to be connected. We're built that way. It dies of failure to thrive syndrome because it doesn't believe it's going to survive, because it's got nothing to look after it, nothing to love it and cherish it and nurture it. So it just dies. But here's the thing that really got me, right? The first time I ever thought of this concept for once. Right? You come with nothing, you're going to go with nothing. You can't take it with you. You can't put the money in the coffin and take it with you. You know, it could be just to be an absolute so-and-so and say no one else is getting it, but you ain't going to take it to an afterlife. But can you imagine, whatever you believe religiously, if you believe in afterlife and you got to go to your maker and the maker says, so what did you do with life? Well, I had 15 Bentleys, and I had 15 Range Rovers, and I had this and I had that. But what did you do? Because you won't get judged on that, will you? How many bikes you nicked? You won't get judged by that. You'll never get judged on what you possess. You're judged on the quality of your life. And the more people I know that are older and get to the end of their life and they start questioning it and say, actually, I would wish I'd have done more of this. Not had another Mercedes. I wished I'd have spent more time with my kids is another classic one I hear from fathers who don't spend time with their kids because they're trying to chase the buck. Because it's all about one-upmanship and you know, getting the next promotion and buying the next big house. Now I've fallen in that trap myself, right? You know, I can't point fingers. I was living it. But until you detach from the outcome, then you're just chasing what I call rainbows. Now, all this is leading up to, right, is there's 3 steps to a life without limits. And it's 3 simple steps, right? And then 3 simple steps are, you've got to know what it is you want. It doesn't have to be materialistic, right? You want to live, like, classic example is, you know, the transformation I've gone through in the last 6 years. I knew what I wanted. I knew what I wanted when I walked into Nick's office, right? Sat down in front of him. I said, I want to live a teetotal life. A teetotal life. Can you imagine what that must have been like? With all my mates who are drinkers, walking into a pub to go and see them to watch a football match perhaps. And they're going, what are you drinking? Lemonade? Pathetic. I didn't care what they thought. I had an outcome. And that outcome was very strong. I wanted to live my life teetotal. And then once you know what it is you want, you recognize what it is you want, you have to ask yourself, what's preventing you from getting it? Because if you ask yourself that question enough, now you've got a pen and paper, right? What is it that you're after, right? Now it could be materialistic. I'm not going to judge you on that, right? It could be you want a business to get a better life for yourself, i.e. give you the freedom to spend more time with your kids. It could be that you want to learn another language, go and live somewhere else in the world. It could be that you want to get some material possession that you do believe will make your life better. I'm not going to judge you on that, right? But write down what it is you want. And then I want you to write down what it is that's preventing you from getting it. Now, I don't want this in a context situation. I don't want you, because I haven't got the money, all right? Because I promise you now, money should never stop you from doing anything. Because once you let go of the outcome, you'll be surprised where money comes from. Okay, I promise you that. But here's the thing, right? Metaphorically, what is stopping you from getting it? What's preventing you? What's stopping you? Write it down, metaphorically. Now you might have to dig a bit, right? This is not easy. Some of you it might be. It might be you've got a hurdle to get over. It might be you've got a weight on your back, the world on your shoulders, something of that nature, right? It could be I'm drowning. It could be there's a ball and chain round or something's holding you back. It could be I've got to get over a mountain. I've got a mountain to climb. Or I can't see the wood for the trees. Where am I? Whatever it is, I want you to write it down. And I want you to, listen, let's open this up, right? Let's see a few of you tap in what things are holding you back. What is stopping you? What's preventing you? What metaphorically is preventing? Just tap in the computer. Let us know. We'll try and deal with one or two of them on the line while we're here. I know it's 9:30. We're probably going to go well over, if that's okay with you. And I've got plenty of time. But tap in something that you think is holding you back. Think about it. What's holding you back? I think we've got one come through. Mindset. Now, the mindset is okay, but that's not really a metaphor. All right? Think about it as a metaphor. What is it about your mindset that's holding you back? Self-belief is another one someone's come up with. But self-belief, right? Think about self-belief. How can you describe that in a metaphor? What is it that you haven't got self-belief in? What is the thing that is actually holding you back? Because see, this is difficult because we throw these things up thinking that's what it is, but I have to dig a bit deeper. Focus is another one someone said, right? Focus, what is it about? What's stopping you from focusing? What's stopping you having self-belief? What's stopping you? What mindset is stopping? What is it about mindset that's stopping you? Think a bit deeper than this, right? This is difficult. It's not easy. It's simple, but it's not. That's contradicting, isn't it, really? It's simple, but it's not easy. Fear of failure. Now, that fear of failure, what are you fearing? What is it you fear? being in control. Not being in control. We've got some great ones here, but I want to dig deeper with this. What are you not in control of? Metaphorically, what are you not in control of? And we'll take the not in control. You're not in control, right? What are you not in control of? How can you take control of whatever it is that you're not in control of? Because we have to look at the metaphor. Sorry, I'm being. Say it again. We've got one Yvette wants me to read. Let's have a look. I hate the fact I drink, and I found it difficult to write. I want to become teetotal because I think that I will have no social. Sorry, I want to become teetotal because I think that I will have no social life and no willpower. Now, I hate the fact I drink, right? And I found it difficult to write. I want to become teetotal and I have no willpower. Do me a favour. You're going to remain anonymous, all right? Just give me a bit more. What's stopping you from drinking? What is actually stopping? What is the thing, the one thing? It could be a hurdle. It could be something that stands in your way. It could be what is the metaphor you're using? Is that the same person? No. What is that? What is it, the metaphor? What is it that stops you? Because the interesting thing is, right, if you find out what it is that's stopping you from not drinking, that thing, is it inside you, outside you? Metaphorically, what is it? Because this, honestly, I promise you, when you find out that metaphor, right, okay. Do you want to put, I mean, yeah, right, okay. It wasn't, so I meant to put, I think, instead of, right, okay, so, yeah, okay. So, the person who said that you think you have no social life, right? Because if you don't, I get this, I understand to a degree what it would be like to, have no social life, going out, you know, with your mates. They're not going to want it. But that person wrote it, right? If you had to explain it to a 5-year-old, right, why you do it and what's stopping you from stopping, what would it be? Is it the devil on your shoulder, right? I don't know what it is. Some voice inside you, some metaphor of I just can't control it. I get overwhelmed. Whatever. It's another one. Okay, so because until you find out that metaphor you use, we can't deal with it. Now, someone's come up, right? Big brick wall. And we've got another one, unsure what direction to take. Now, these are good, right? These are good. Big brick wall. So whoever's got a big brick wall, right, I want you to think of this way. Is that brick wall in front of you? Is it at the side of you? Is it at the back of you? Where is it? Is it right the way around you? Is it above you, below you? Wherever it is, I want you to think of that brick wall, right? And I want you to think of it. Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, right, how big and how restrictive and how much does it affect your life? So 10 is, all right, it's major, or 0 is it doesn't affect you at all. Now, obviously, it's not going to be 0, otherwise you wouldn't have told me you've got a big brick wall, right? But that brick wall, what would need to happen to it in order for it to go away? What would need to happen to the big brick wall in order for it to go away? Now, I want you to think about how you would get rid of a brick wall. How would you get rid of a brick wall, right? And this is important because that brick wall, do you have to take it down brick by brick? Do you have to knock it down? What do you have to do with it? And then if you've just knocked it down, done whatever you need to do with it, what needs to happen then? Smash it. Right, now listen. Now you've got to smash it. Now I want you to smash it. Now who's going to smash it? You or somebody else? You or somebody else? So you're going to blow it up, right? You're going to blow it up. Now, I want you to think about this, right? How do you blow it up? Do you get one of them things you push down, it goes, or do you get a stick of dynamite, stick it in there? How do you blow it up? Exactly how do you do it? And when you've done that, what happens? What are you left with? And then, once you've got that, debris, right? What do you need to do with the debris? And before you take the debris away, right, ask yourself this question. Is there anything I need to take from the debris that I can keep just in case? Do you need to keep 1 or 2 bricks or a bit of cement that was holding them together? Or do you need to get rid of the whole lot? What do you need to do? And how do you get rid of all the debris? Do you get a skip and load the skip up? What do you do with it? A few bricks staying in a neat pile. A few bricks staying in a neat pile. So that's what you need to keep, is it? Because if that's what you need to keep, that's fantastic. That's all you need. The rest of it you get rid of. And you get rid of it whichever way you need to get rid of it. I'm not talking about leaving them there because that might not be enough, but you know what to do. This is your authentic self speaking, right? You know what to do. This metaphor, this is a fantastic metaphor. A brick wall. You know, everyone else has got their idea of what to do with a brick wall, but just having a few bricks left, throw away the rest. Or throw away the rest. Now, how do you throw away? And this is really important, right? It's not just a case of throwing them. I want you to physically throw them away in your mind. Put them where you need to put them. Get rid of. Do you need to get rid of them, or does someone else need to get rid of them? Do you need to put them in the back of a van? What do you need to do? Drop off a cliff. I love it. Now, listen. You'll remain anonymous, right? But I want you to drop them off the cliff. How do you drop them off? You know how to do it in your head. And I want you to do it, and then once you've done it, I want you to tell me on a scale of 1 to 10 how you feel about your problem. 10 being really bad, 0 being, well, actually, don't really bother me anymore. A lot better. Scale of 1 to 10. Because I promise you, if you can do this with your own metaphor, the difference is substantial because the block goes away. Right. And if you put 8, is that 8 being really bad or 2 being a lot better? Really good. So in other words, it's not an 8, I feel really great. Because remember, 10 is you feel really bad about it. nor is you feel great about it. It's a 2. Now that's a difference, right? You've gone down to 2. Just that one metaphor. So simple, but so hard. Because if we think about it, how many of us are really struggling to find the metaphor? Because that's the tough one. So really, all I'm about is working out. The third step is unblocking them metaphors and setting yourself free, because as soon as you set yourself free, now it doesn't matter what the context of the brick wall was, right? Now the brick wall's gone, do you feel that you know what you need to do now? Because your authentic self's going to come out and start going, well, actually, now the brick wall's gone, I can do this or I can do that. And you'll start working it out for yourself quite quickly. Now, you'll need a few tools, but I was with a client a little while ago, and this is how she described it to me, right? And I thought, well, that sounds a bit... It was after we dealt with a metaphor. She had three things that are holding her back, and we dealt with individually 3 of them. I'll tell you about one of them. One of them was a big cloud over her head, right? It was like so cloudy, you couldn't see through the clouds, and all this business, and I said, how do you get rid of the clouds? She said, well, you blow them away. I said, great, okay, blow them away. So she blew the clouds away in her mind, right? I said, is there anything you need to do? And all she went, well, actually, I'm going to get a fan and help the fan blow the clouds away. So she got a fan out and she blew the clouds away. And once she finished, she was a 10 to start with, and she came back to a 0. Right? It didn't bother me at all. So I said, what do you need to do now? She went, well, actually, I need to do this, 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 this. And she said, oh, and for days afterwards, she was coming up with loads of things that she needed to do without prompting. And I said, what's it like? She went, well, actually, I feel like I've been ploughed. And I went, oh, you steady on, right? So she said, no, it's like someone had, like, really, when you get a field that's not, it's all hard, earth. She said, it's like my mind's been ploughed, and all of a sudden it's all loose and there's lots of things coming up now. Because I promise you, these things, once you get rid of them, oh mate, they're so powerful. So powerful. Now I can't deal with all these things, right? Today I can't deal with them. And this is what the event's for. The events for us, we can spend a whole day together. We'll have breakout groups to go through your metaphors and find out and bust the bloody things away. Because I promise you, when it's gone, you'll be thinking, what was the problem? And there's all sorts coming up here, right? Unsure what direction to take. Hurdles. Emptiness vacuum. There's loads. Everyone's got one. Whether it's very specific or not, and this is my job, is to dig it out. Find out what that actual metaphor is, because you ain't going to want to tell me something. Honestly, you won't. You're protecting it. I do a lot with clients, and I have big issues trying to get the damn things out in the first place. But once we get them out, oh, mate, it's so powerful. So powerful. And hopefully that's given you a little taste, because once you're unblocked, right, once you're unblocked, then we can start to free yourself. Because I believe, right, in universal intelligence. And what do I mean by that, right? Well, I don't know if you've ever heard about the albatrosses, right? They go to a certain island, I can't remember where the exact island it is, right? And they learn to fly. Now these are big birds, right? These are big chicks. And this is really freaks me out. Really freaks me. It really gets me, because this is nature at its best. On that island, they don't normally get sharks. But the exact same time as the albatross starts to learn to fly, the same time every year, the tiger shark turns up. And it's rich pickings, because as soon as the bird lands in the water, it's got an easy meal. Now, I've checked this. I've done a lot of research on this. There is no tiger shark school. They haven't even got iPads, right, or computers. They haven't got a little diary to say, oh, by the way, turn up at that island there. They're all going to learn to swim at the same time. They know. Where does it come from? How does a homing pigeon know where to go? How do the birds know where to fly south? And have you ever seen a stampede in Africa, in the plains of Africa? The animals automatically know when there's danger, or they know where the food is. And we don't allow ourselves to be that free, because do you remember that authentic self? You forget. You forget to use your authentic self. And once we unblock you, you can start using it. You can use universal intelligence. And this is the interesting thing, right? Life is so abundant, right? How many seeds in an apple? 4, 6, 8. You're not sure. Sometimes you might get 8, sometimes you might get 4. It's a bit of a lottery. You cut enough apples open. Mostly 3 to 5. But let me ask you this question. How many apples in a seed? Think about it. It's infinite. Because if one seed germinates, it produces a tree. The tree produces apples every single year. If every one of them single apples germinated with their seeds, how many apples in a seed? And that is life. That is how simple life is. It's abundant. You've got direction. And also, you've got a bullshit meter. Now, this bullshit meter, you know, when we have our authentic self, right? How many of you know this, right? You come across someone, you think, bullshit, here he is, full of crap, this bloke, right? Or this woman, absolute full of crap. You know it, don't you? You can see a bullshit meter. But the thing is, what you do is you put your pretend self up, right? And what you do is you're giving bullshit as well. So you think you've got a good bullshit meter and nobody else has? Sorry. Sorry to burst your bubble. But people see straight through it. They see straight through it. They know. Until you start living from that place where you really, I mean, some of you do live there. You know, I'm not saying you all don't, you know, I'm not judging everybody saying you're all the same, right? But if you've got things you're hiding from someone, people see straight through it. They know they're not congruent. They may not know what it is, but they know you're not quite congruent. You're not quite there. You might be not enough to put them off their bullshit, mate. Might not go in the red. Might go in a little bit up. They know, yeah, well, yeah, okay, we know about it. We all know people like that, don't we? We all. So once you're in this position, right, and you understand this, it's time to start changing your attitude towards other people, because one of the great things I learned in the Samaritans is that you have to listen. You have to listen. And Stephen Covey talks about it, and God rest his soul, he died recently. Two great men, that's the other one who died, isn't it? Steve Jobs and now Stephen Covey. In his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he's got a habit, which is seek first to understand, then to be understood, right? It's the first step to any communication. The problem is, because your pretend self is kicking in all the time, right, and you want to feel significant, and I want you to be honest with yourself, right? I want you to really be honest with yourself. How many of you do this? You're having a conversation, and the conversation is going, oh yeah, well, this is what's happening to me at the moment, and someone else is speaking, and you've got, oh yeah, yeah, and you're thinking about your answer to what they're saying, and you're preparing it. So what you're basically doing is you are listening with the intent to reply. Be honest. No bullshit now. I've got my meter on, all right? Be honest with yourself. And you are waiting for the second where he draws or she draws breath and you just step in and go, yeah, but and, all right? You want to get your point across. Now, if you're preparing your answer, what are you no longer doing? Think about it, right? What are you no longer doing if you're preparing your answer? You're no longer listening. So I ask you to listen with the intent to understand. I was buying a load of property for a developer once, and we were going to make a handsome profit on a spin on his new build back in 2006. And I'd just been introduced to all this stuff. It was just magic to me, right? It might have been early 2007. And they turned around and said, unfortunately, we're any developers or dealers or investors who are buying stock, we're no longer selling it to you, because I negotiated quite a good discount. They realised they'd undersold the units, and they were literally pulling them off all the investors, and they were putting the prices up by 30 grand on each unit, right? Now you can imagine, I'd buying 4 of these, I'd placed every single one of them. I was making £50,000 out of these 4 flats, 12.5 grand a flat. And I was passing them on to a developer who was going to buy them off of me, right? I say developer, an investor. And it was spoiling my party. I was about to lose 50 grand. Now, 50,000 is a lot of money when you're expecting it to come in, because you think, oh, the time that goes through, 50,000. But here's the thing, right? I was really angry. There's a difference. I had a conversation with Daniel today, and he was talking about the gap between stimulus and response. And I've been stimulated, right? And there was a gap, and I didn't feel the gap, right? I didn't wait for the gap. I didn't look at the gap. I just went steaming in there. You can't effing do that. There's no way. In fact, I'm going to get my lawyers onto you because, you know, you've taken the deposit off us. You've strung us along for long. And I was really angry. I don't think I actually swore, actually. I just said, you cannot do that. And I think, you know, I'll be speaking to my lawyer. And she said, well, you can have a meeting with a sales director if you really want to. And I said, yes, I will do. I'll take that up and I'll bring my lawyer with me. I put the phone down and I thought, that's not the way to deal with it. That's not the way to deal with it. The gap took me a little time to go back to it and hang on, let's reframe this. So I had the meeting, right, and I didn't bring my lawyer, so I turned up at the meeting and I turned up with the intent to listen, to understand. And I walked into that place, sat down with that bloke. He'd come all the way from Brighton to Chatham. And he sat down, nice as pie. He said, I thought you'd bring your lawyer. I said, no, I thought it wasn't necessary. I'm sure we're big enough to sort it ourselves. He said, well, I've told you we can't give any discounts. I said, that's not a problem at all. I said, but he said, well, do you want to sort of go ahead? I said, no, perhaps you should tell me, you know, what the situation is and you can enlighten me. And he was telling me about, you know, he's the messenger. You know, these bosses have made a decision. It was going to cost a lot more to do the development they expected, la, 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 la. And I listened and I listened and I listened. I just asked a few questions. I listened and listened and listened. And then I just turned around and said to him, God, that must have been difficult because I understood him. My outcome was irrelevant. I said, I understand that. It must have been really difficult. He said, yeah. I said, and you're sent down here. You've got a guy who's going to come down with his lawyer. You've got all these sort of ideas. He said, well, you're the only person that's taken it up. No one else has come else to see me. So I said, well, can I tell you my situation now? Because I understood him and he appreciated it. He now listened to me. And I just said, look, I was going to flip these on. I was going to make a profit, 12.5 grand on each flat. But there must be middle ground. I walked out of that place with a discount. It wasn't a great discount, it was 20 grand. I was going to make 20 grand out of it. But I got a discount. All because I seeked first to understand, then to be understood. And that's a little bit of a business. And I do this with clients on a regular basis. So I urge you to understand it from someone else's point of view. Try and understand it completely before you even bring yourself into the situation. I'm going to leave you with a couple of things, right? Nothing can be destroyed. Nothing. Once we understand we've got our uniqueness and the universe and how it works, right? When you die and you're cremated, black smoke comes out of the chimney, right? And that black smoke is particles, gases, vapours that have come from a body. And then you land up with a load of ash. Now what happens to that plume of smoke, right? That plume of smoke floats over and settles somewhere else. And that'll be nutrients for plants or whatever, which will feed the food cycle. In the meantime, your ashes, depending on whether you keep it in an urn or they're scattered. My mother's ashes are scattered in a certain part in the cemetery, but they're effectively nutrients for trees that are growing. Because that's what happens. All that happens is you transform into something else. It may not be a physical body, but it's something tangible like gases or particles or ash. So if nothing can be destroyed, what happens to a body when it dies, when someone dies? What's missing? Have you ever seen a dead body? Right? What's missing in a body is one thing. Now, some people call it one thing or another. It could be the soul. It could be the spirit. I believe it's the spirit that leaves the body. Because there is something missing when you see a dead body. Life, the spirit. So if a spirit can't be destroyed, where does it go? Because it wasn't until I realized that my mum's blood runs through my veins. It wasn't until I realized that thoughts can't be destroyed. You can't get a hammer and smash stuff to fall. Even if you do smash something, it just transforms. So, if you think about that carefully, that life's got a different meaning. It's different to perhaps how you saw it before. I love this side the first time I heard it, right? We are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience, a physical experience. Because when that body leaves, where does it go? It's the spirit that gives life to the body, not the other way around. So, this is I urge you, right? If you're on this call, if you understand what I'm saying here and you've got blocks that you want to unblock, then come to my one-day event where we're going to spend a bit of time together busting through them metaphors so you can live your life. Because this webinar is about a life with limits. I want to take it to your life without limits. We're going to look at your life expectations, right? What do you expect from your life? Tony Robbins calls it your blueprint. What is it? Is it in line with where you expected it to be? We're going to uncover them metaphorical blocks and then banish them, right? And we're going to provide you with some resources that you can use, some three really simple techniques that will greatly improve the quality of your life. So you can live your life without limits. But here's the thing, right? The quality of your life is in direct proportion with your ability to deal with bad news and adversity. And once you get them blocks out of the way, then you can deal with adversity. You can deal with the bad news. Because we all get it. We all got problems. We've all got issues. But I'm telling you now, if you haven't got problems or issues, pray for them. Because it means you're going to be dead. Because the only person without any problems is the person in the graveyard. We just got to understand how to deal with them. How we represent them in our mind. Because the mind is so simple. It is unbelievably simple. It organizes your thoughts so simply. If you knew how it worked, you'd just be able to change your mind tomorrow. Because you can live whatever life you choose. You just got to make up your mind to do so and believe that it can happen. So when's this event, right? Oh yeah, don't forget, once we've got you past your blocks, we're going to realign you with your authentic self so you can live your life without limits, right? Because once you live from that place of authenticity, as I said to you earlier, Bob versus Bentley, they begin with the same. What would you rather have? So, Saturday, the 24th of November 2012, at the Hilton Hotel, put my teeth back in, the Hilton Hotel, London, Canary Wharf. South Quay, Marsh Wall, registrations at 9:30. This event's £97 plus VAT, that's £116.40 with the VAT. And Yvette's going to put the link in the pane on the, what's it called, the pane? The chat pane. She's going to click the link in there, right? So she's going to paste the link in there. If you click on it, you can pay for your ticket now. Now, this is an event. This is the first time that I'm running it, and I'll be running it again in the future. But for the first 20 people that book tonight, you'll have a 1-hour coaching session with me personally. The first 20 people. I can't do more than 20 because, you know, it's just going to be, my time is going to be stretched. But you get that included in the ticket price. But let me ask you this question. What's your price for freedom? Now, I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I have. Right? I've been standing talking to a microphone for the last 2 hours. And I hope you've had something inside that stirred, inspired, given you hope. Because I promise you there is hope. Whether it's a drinking issue, whether it's, I don't know, you know, a spending issue. You could be a spendaholic. Now, I used to spend fortunes. All because I was looking for, you know, to suppress a feeling, numb it down. Whatever it is, your issues, your blocks, you don't have to carry them around any longer. You can let go of them any time you want. You just got to make your mind up to do so. My name's Paul Ribbons. It's been an honour and a privilege to serve you today. Now, if you've got any questions about the event or about what we've been talking about today, you can email me, or actually if you email info@paulribbons.com. Now, I want you to do me a big favour. If you really enjoyed this and you got something out of it, I want you to paste it all over Facebook. But make sure you tag my name in, Paul Ribbons, because I want people to come to the next one. I want people to know about this stuff because it's important to me. It really is important to me. I want you to shout from the rooftops for me, please. Help me make a difference to as many people as I can. As many people. Now, I haven't had my dinner yet, so I'm going to go and cool off now because it's really hot in my office. I'm sweating away. But I thank you for bearing with me. I know I've gone on a little bit and I'll go off at a tangent a bit, and I've been a bit like vulnerable today. I've never ever admitted what I've admitted to you tonight, ever. I don't think even my wife knew, Yvette. She certainly hadn't known I've eaten out of a bin before. But it's not the sort of thing I go around broadcasting. I do now. Broadcasting it from my office, this wonderful internet world that we live in. But I hope you understand where I've come from, the shift I've had in my life. I promise you, I'm a different person to what I was 20 years ago. Completely different. It's been a transformation. And I had to go through that transformation before I could help you. Because there's nothing worse than someone who hasn't done it and they're trying to tell you, yeah, well, I'm a coach, I do this, I do that. I trained as a coach. I didn't practice as a coach to start with because I needed to make sure that I dealt with my demons first. I dealt with a few clients, helped them along the way, and built on, and I found the system that works. Simple system. And hopefully it's made some real big sense to you tonight. Now I'm going to go and have my dinner now. I love you loads. Thank you very much for all the fantastic messages. And I'm being told I've got to look at something. Thanks for your candor, your honesty and bravery. Hope to see you on the 24th. What's that? Thank you, Paul. I've been planning to write a book over the last few months about my life. You have made me even more determined to do it. You're the person who inspires me the most in life. Thank you. Thank you, mate. That means a lot. Really means a lot. Oh, some wonderful messages. Yeah, I'll leave it open and you can post your messages up. I want to read them all. All right. Thank you for your love and your generosity. You make a difference every time I speak to you. Oh, thank you. Thanks for being Paul Ribbons. Unique. Truly inspirational. Oh, mate, this is just wonderful. Thank you very much for your lovely. Paul, you're brilliant. Thank you. Oh, I promise you. Each and every one of you. This is fantastic. I'm going to leave it open. I'm going to finish the webinar, but thank you very much. Thank you so much.